Hi, I'm Dave Dinkle. We're here today with Felix. Felix is a mentor student, but he's been out of the program for a while because he's been successful on his own. I wanted to bring Felix in because, first of all, he's coming in anyway, and I thought I'd just grab him. But the story goes like this. I get mentor applications from students around the country every day. And I have a question on there about what would you like to do the most? Wholesale, rehab, buy your own home. Buy your own home is typically not very interesting. I'm going to say 30 or 40% of the time people want to learn how to rehab, and the rest of the time they want to wholesale. Our strategy is to learn how to wholesale so you can cherry pick the best deals to do rehabs on, and that works very well. However, as a first-time rehabber, if you're thinking about getting into it, I want to give you some clues. If you said to me, well, what's the price range it sells? In some areas, people will tell you, realtors particularly, anything sells. You rehab it, just slop some paint and patch on it, you can sell it. Well, that's true at times in rising markets, but in flat markets or declining markets, you should look for properties that are around the median value in the county you're in and take off 10 or 20%. Those are the ones that are typically blue-collar homes, and they sell on a constant basis, where you have the most movement in the local population. Now, we have what I call high-end homes down here are from 500 to $1 million plus, but we kind of focus on the 450 to 900,000 range when we talk about high-end. Those could be sold for cash buyers, since we don't like conventional financing, pretty regularly. But we're unique in that we have foreign money coming in and things like that. Now, the markets change all the time. I've been an investor since 1975, and I've been through some, needless to say, real ups and downs, besides what most of you have seen since 2006 to 2008 era. But we're undergoing a change again. I think about 7 or 8 months ago at one of the Reia meetings, I talked about what's changing. And what's changing is you see in the paper the prices are continuing to rise, but the number of homes selling are declining. And that's a typical instance where, for example, when they shoot off a rocket, they don't shoot it off at the highest trajectory. I'm having a tongue-tied thing today. They don't shoot the second booster stage at the highest trajectory. They shoot it at the fastest velocity. That carries it higher. What happens in the real estate market is at the highest trajectory that we're looking at, when the prices are highest, the booster starts to fall away, which is the rest of the marketplace. So what we're seeing happening, and it's been really kind of slapping some of the very professional rehabbers in the face, is they have 5 or 6 rehabs completed in the 500, 400 area, maybe even 999 is one of them, and they can't sell them. They have tons of showings, but absolutely no offers whatsoever. So what's happened overnight? Well, it's not a seasonal thing, and it's a thing that everybody's saying to themselves, I don't know what's going to happen in the economy, I'm going to wait and see. And the ultimate result is, if you've borrowed hard money to do those houses, every day you're losing part of your profits. Now, one of the investors that's been, one of our students actually, has been around for about 5 years and done extraordinarily well, said to me 2 weeks ago she's spending $15,000 a month in hard money loans. And she's had to take losses in some of the properties to get out of them to keep the blood from running out of her bank account, frankly. So one of the things we're going to talk about for Felix is the kind of things that happen to you as a rehabber that you don't anticipate. Because look, you can go into it and say, well, I got this price. I look at the after repaired values, and I'm going to look at the highest price in the neighborhood. I'm sure I can get that, which you probably cannot in most cases. And then you say, well, I know what my costs are going to be because I had a contractor come out here, and I know I've got it all locked in. Maybe a hard money cost, I hope you figured them in. But let's talk about what can happen that you don't expect. For example, the house that you have down south, when you went into it, you had a crew, you had a contractor who had worked for you before.
Correct. A contractor crew that had worked for myself and for a partner of mine that we used to buy live at the courthouse when you used to buy in person, not over the internet. Yeah. And people would walk up to you and say, hey, you let go of this deal, I'm going to take it. So if you weren't part of that little crew, you weren't buying much in the courthouse. So we were buying in the courthouse. And He stayed active when I got out of the market back in 2007, and his crew was a crew that we share when we have excess amount of property either side, and his crew came to work for me. And
so you have an expectation that they know what they're doing, obviously, and you can rely on them. Two factors that you don't always find in contractors. They give you a good sales pitch a lot of times if you haven't been in before, but these guys were experienced.
Correct. And long story short, I'll give you two easy things that they screwed up on that cost me a ton of money. They went ahead and they brought the paint spray machine, which you typically use in the interior of the house to paint the roof or the walls, either or, and then you roll the roof or the walls. Typically, the guys spray the roof and then they roll the wall.
You're saying roof, but
paint
ceiling.
the ceiling. Sorry.
That's okay.
But these guys decided to use the spray machine on the exterior of the house. The reason that's not a good idea is that Mother Nature blows the wind wherever it wants. So these guys were spraying the overhang, and the blowing of the wind that day blew the overspray onto the roof. So now I had a red and white roof. Cost me about $20,000 to get that off.
Sometimes they'll go on the neighbors' houses and all kinds of crazy stuff. One thing to mention while you're talking about that, when you buy paint, if you roll it, that guarantee, it says 5 or 10 year guarantee on it, that's a guarantee. But if you spray it, it voids the guarantee. For the guys that are doing rehab, they just want it as fast as possible. Rolling it is not as fast, and that's why they do it. That's why they spray.
Correct. And so that was that. And then in the master bedroom, they dropped the hammer on the tile, and the whole house had the same tile. So they cracked about five tiles or 4 tiles because they could not fix that one time. They happened to break another 2 or 3, and that cost me another ton of money. Luckily, I was able to kind of build a box around the broken tiles to make it like a shoe rack, and I kind of think I got away with that. But that would have been an extreme expense because that house is 3,800 square feet at approximately $5 a square foot. There goes another $15,000 or $16,000 that I saved from not having to spend because I came up with another idea to get around the broken tiles, and it's not visible. But that house I spent approximately, I think we're in about $28,000 in the rehab cost. It was a very light rehab, but I shouldn't have done. When I first bought it, there was nothing selling below $675, I believe, $650, $675. All the comps showed north of $650. So I estimated that I would go in at $599. I should be out at $550, no problem. That was September of last year. Still to the date, I'm at $499 and trying to go in reverse as low, and get out of it as fast as possible. I reduced the property by over $100,000. I've probably shown it to over 200 people because I had several open houses, several FISBO power selling system mechanisms that brought in 100 people to 120 people on a weekend. But I've had about 200 interested people, and I've yet to have one offer in that property. So it leads me to believe that, and everybody sees it, that it's a beautiful house. I mean, I put LED lighting, I redid bathrooms, kitchen, and did landscaping, which was my biggest expense there. But at the end of the day, I can't get rid of the property in that market. I've never gone into that price range. My niche has always been below $350 up to $50,000, and I've been very successful at it at that price range. And I said, well, there's no way I can miss on this home because I purchased it for $400, and when I looked at the numbers, I saw everything above $650. I said $599. I'm going to get out fast. And that was not the case. It hasn't been the case.
I actually saw the house and did a hard money loan on it.
Yes.
I liked it that much. And there's a lot of things you didn't have to do, like the kitchen was pretty much intact. But you also had some code enforcement issues. They kind of gummed you up a bit, didn't they?
Well, what happened there was the city went out and tagged me for a carport that had been there before the city became a city. The house, the Palmetto Bay became a city approximately about 6 years ago. This house was built in the 70s, so everything that was there had been there for many, many years. So the city saw the house with the carport that was deteriorated, and they requested for me to, go ahead and repair it or demolish it. So when I go to the city and I said, okay, I'd like to get a permit to repair it, they said, well, we need a certificate of elevation and a survey. And I said, what do you need a certificate of elevation and a survey for if it's just a repair of an existing structure? They said, well, the survey just to see the setbacks. And I said, well, this has been there for many, many years. And they said, well, no, and we'll see if we give you the permit. I said, so wait, let me get this right.
Excuse me.
Let me get this right. After $750 for an elevation certificate and a survey, you're going to see if I go ahead and you give me the permit to repair this? I said, what's my other option? It says, well, a demolition. And I said, well, how much is that? And they said, $100. And I said, do I get it right away? And they said, yes. I said, sold. I'm taking the $100 demolition order. So I demolished that. And I got that permit. I could not do any work on the property for 2 weeks until they actually approved it. It took 2 weeks because when I put the cost of the demolition, I put zero. I was going to do the work myself to demolish a two-carport structure. So there is no cost. I already own the tools, and it's just chop and throw away. So I put that in my application. They said, well, no, you need to go ahead. There has to be a cost for this. And I said, how so? It says, you cannot demolish this by yourself. I said, okay. So I have one guy. I pay him $120 a day. I can do this in 4 hours, so that's $60, and that's half a day. And they said, okay, well, put that in your application. So I had to go back in, do the whole application, and put $60 as my cost to demolish this because I could not do it by myself. I go ahead and finally demolish that. I finally get that in. They give me the permit at Friday, 3. I think they closed at 4. So they called me in and they said 3:45 you can pick up your permit. They closed at 4, so I picked it up at 3:45. From 3:45 Friday afternoon till a Saturday morning at 9:05, 9:15 that I arrived at the property, I had a stop work order on the door because the inspector had seen that the realtor had written remodeled home, remodeled kitchen, enclosed garage, new bathrooms.
Yeah,
and
this is on the MLS. The inspector actually looked on the MLS to see for work that hadn't been permitted. That's what they're doing now in many municipalities, especially if drive-by. If they see a sign in the yard, they go to the MLS or Realtor.com, they look for the realtor comments, and they can work in their office and find code violations everywhere. Now, he wasn't right, and that's oftentimes the case. He assumes that because you said your realtor comment said new kitchen, that you put a new kitchen in, you spiffed it up. You did lipstick on a pig. Yeah.
What we did in the kitchen was we changed the doors and we sprayed the actual cabinets. No, we put new doors. We changed brand new doors. We changed the hardware and we sprayed the rest of the actual structure or cabinets that were already existing. And we changed the hardware. So it looks brand new, but it's not brand new. It was a very sound and structured kitchen with a very nice granite top, so there was no need to replace it. So when he walked in, I showed him that the house had been, remodeled or renovated, but it was not. Nothing was torn off and redone or brand new. So, long story short, that stop work order, they requested for them to have an in-property visit or inspection of the whole premises indoors. And at that moment I was like, well, here we go. And when they said the garage was enclosed illegally, I immediately went to the county and pulled all the records from the microfilm department, and it shows a picture in 1973 of the enclosure. So I took that alongside the permit that they had pulled back then, that the new city did not have, because for whatever reasons the counties and the cities do not have the same building department information, and they do not apparently share the information. So they charge you for this information because they want layouts and they want surveys and you know, architectural drawings for you to do whatever in the house, just so they can have it in their records. And once he comes in, I showed him all the records. He walked the property. He says, "Okay, I see what you've done. I'm a general contractor myself," and it was the head of the department who walked the property and said that the property was fine. So he gave me a clean slate, and you know, I was able to put the property back out on the market after pulling it for approximately about a month. So anything and everything you can think that can go wrong with one property did go wrong in this property. The contractors their damages were over $30,000. I was able to get away with one of the repairs that I didn't fully do. I had to fire them, and then I had to wait for my other crew to finish one job, and then go to this property and finish this job. So in all, the 2-week rehab or 3-week rehab that should have been done within 3 weeks took us a little over 4.5 months to complete in the delays. And again, with hard money loan and carrying cost and driving from Brickell to, you know,
long distance.
And all the tolls in Miami, the cost starts to add up.
Now, one thing that I stress oftentimes is when you learn how to wholesale, you're going to have a constant cash flow if you keep doing it.
Correct.
So tell us about, I did transactional funding a week or two ago on a
Correct.
wholesale deal.
Correct.
So how much did you make on that wholesale deal?
On that wholesale deal, we netted $35,602.70.
There you go. So,
and we have one coming up next week.
If you were only rehabbing that one property, you'd be dying from the interest costs.
Correct.
And everything else going on. But that's what keeps this business going. Combination of wholesaling. Every once in a while you have a big hit on a rehab.
Right. I typically, on average about 50 to 60,000 on an average rehab profit. And I currently have 3 rehabs going at the current time. And I was talking to Dave that I want to scale back on my rehabs and increase my wholesale because of the fact of it's very time consuming. I do the design, I do the money is in how you can lower your cost of construction and lower your cost of purchasing. If you have purchasing power, then that's where you make your profits. I mean, I buy $55 toilets that are worth $300 toilets. So, you know, when you start buying scale, that's where the money comes in. You know, you're buying $100 tubs when they cost $400. You buy $70 5-gallon paints when they cost $200. That's where you start adding up your you know, even down to the valves. My water valves are $2.30. When you go to Home Depot, they're $9.98 or $8.97. You know, all that starts to add up, and that's where you make your money. Not just numbers, but being able to bring down cost. Lighting fixtures that you typically buy for $150, you get them $30, $40 brand new. And they look exactly the same. So that's where you start to make your money. So it is very time consuming. 7 days a week. If this is a business that you want to do and just work 5 days a week, it's really hard. I don't know. Maybe Dave has the secret sauce, but I put in 7 days a week.
I just saw one. I looked at it actually this morning. A student sent me the property. Fair market value on an excellent day is $90,000. So I looked at the realtor comments on realtor.com, and they had 23 pictures, which is typically a big sign that something's going on, like rehab. They never put bad pictures in. So I looked at it, and this is 800 square foot property. And the pictures were magnificent. This guy must have spent $40,000 on an 800 square foot property in this rehab. Everything you can think of in a very high-end house. Go ahead and cough. You have to cough? It's okay. So here's what I noticed, though. It was in an IRA, and he had purchased the property for $115,000. So to begin with, he paid way over market value. Now he was trying to sell it for $175,000. Nothing in the neighborhood had ever sold above $130,000, and his concept is, I can build in equity by making it look perfect. Well, if your end buyer has a lot of cash and he's really stupid, yes. But if he doesn't have cash in that neighborhood, it's going to be FHA or VA. There's no chance in hell you're going to get an appraisal. So that IRA is going to take a loss on that property. The point here is, if you're going to rehab, tweak the numbers, learn how to buy properties right, get your financing in order, and for gosh sakes, if you're going to be in an area where there's code enforcement like every city in the country, you better be careful about what you comply with and not. Now, I have to say to you, Nan and I rehabbed for 25 years. We never pulled a permit. Am I proud of that? Well, yeah, okay. However, those are the good old days. When the market hit, the mortgage market hit, the cities lost a lot of revenues and tax bases. And the only department in the city that makes money is the building department. And that, by the way, besides permits, that's code enforcement. So the guys in code enforcement started trolling the streets looking for dumpsters outside and trash and stuff like that. Now they've gotten more sophisticated. Besides trolling the neighborhoods, they can now look on the MLS or Realtor.com and figure out, hey, it says here we rehab the property. Tag the house for everything it says on there, and then we'll do it later. One of my another one of my very good students who's done a lot of rehabs called me and said, I can't believe the city caught me. And I said, yeah, why? And she said, well, because she was on vacation. Supposedly, the code enforcement officer called a realtor and said he wants to see inside. But he found out about it, not from the sign in the front yard, but from the MLS. So she was panicked. She said, what do I do? He's got me for everything, including changing the pool filter. I don't know, you need code, permits to do a pool filter. Now, not the pump, the filter.
Wow.
So I said to her, look, here's what you got to do. Go down there, start to cry, tell them you didn't do these things, come by the house and let them see what was there before. Now, that's not an excuse. The people that were there before put the new kitchen in. When they sold it, they probably said to the buyer, it was here when I bought it. That's no excuse. If they didn't pull permits, the guy that did it before, or you didn't pull permits, you're responsible from now on out. So, we're going to leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's get out of that sucker.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks very much, guys. Sorry for all the coughing and choking.